So when the Stoic looks at an aim of life, his aim of life is that he has to pursue that virtue with reason, and that virtue is greater good, good for all. And in his little manual, the handbook that Epictetus, the slave and then the teacher, wrote, he mentioned a few principles of that Stoic human being. And lots of those are mentioned in his own way in the meditations, the self-diary written by the Emperor Marcus Aurelius. And the first is acceptance, that the real strength of the Stoic is that he accepts that it is only him who should be responsible for what he does, and he must be rational enough that he must separate what is in his control and what is not in his control. And unless he does that, there is no way that he can be able to have the courage and the understanding how he affects other people and how other people affect him. Because if he is constantly not having that clear boundary between himself, his actions and his thoughts, and other people's actions and their thoughts, then his own soul is not strong enough. His own identity is not robust enough. And that is where people constantly are having heartaches and depressions and suicide attempts, because they're constantly looking at others for affirmation, for for their actions to approve them or to approve oneself. So it is important for the Stoic that he creates that self-reliance. How is that self-reliance possible? By first understanding that my actions, my thoughts, and my plans, my emotions, and my will are my responsibility. I am the only person responsible for those, whereas the other people are responsible for their actions. I may say something to another person, but what that person says back or responds back is not in my control. If I say something positive, the other person may say something negative or something positive. I should be responsible for my actions, and the other person is responsible for their actions. And then comes the perspective. So when the other person tells you something which is positive, you may feel happy. Then the other person says, say for example, something negative, you may feel unhappy. Now, what does that mean? That what it means is that it is not you who has determined whether you're happy or unhappy, because it's the other person who said it. And the other person may have said anything, something neutral, something that is pleasant or unpleasant. Then it depends on you whether you felt pleasant or unpleasant about it. So if somebody says that Johnny said that Akmal is a bad guy. Now, this is what Epictetus says, that what Akmal should say to, the speaker is, oh, he should have said more bad things about me because he doesn't know all my faults. So the important thing is that how you look at your reactions is once again your responsibility. It is not the responsibility of the other person who said the neutral or the pleasant or the unpleasant thing which has made you happy or unhappy. It is you yourself who has made you unhappy. So it is important for you to understand that how you should rely on yourself in judging what happens to you. So it is not only that you're responsible for what you say, but it is also your responsibility entirely how you feel when somebody says something. And that is where your resilience comes in. And that is the third bit that Epictetus writes in Enchiridion. That your resilience is something that is only apparent through adversity. How do you develop courage? Only when something challenging confronts you. You confront an enemy. You confront adversity. How do you develop patience? You want something happening? Doesn't happen. You sit and you wait. Or you fail an examination and you prepare again and you sit that exam again and you fail again and you sit that exam again. You may pass or you may fail. But that is what adversity does to you. And what adversity does is it creates resilience in you. It makes you courageous. And that is something that you need to inculcate in yourself. It creates sabr, istiqamat, patience, and fortitude. And these are the most important aspects for the Stoic man. Now, when we talk of the Stoic man, aren't we talking of many people in our history that we have heard and seen? Haven't we seen that in our religious history? Haven't we seen this in our Qaid-e-Azam, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the greatest of all political leaders this millennium? And so that is, and could we call him a Stoic? Of course we can. And if we find in him all this fortitude, the reliance, the responsibility, and the ability to self-sacrifice because he wanted to be honest to that great ideal of being good for others. The other factor is humility. The person who is humble, and as I mentioned that example of somebody saying that Akmal is bad, and what Akmal should say is, well, he should have said more because he probably doesn't know all my faults. That is humility, and this is how a Stoic suggests that you should feel in reality. Because if you do not have humility, you will be constantly looking at affirmation from others. And then you will not be self-reliant, and then you will be looking at your emotions changing because of what the others say or not say. The strings that other pull, and you will be like an emotional puppet who will be saddened when other people say bad things and will be happy when they say good things. So that is extremely important, that humility will be your shield. Humility will be your protection, that you do not claim and you do not feel that you're special. The next one that Epictetus writes in Enchiridion is freedom. Now, if you are in lust of power, money, sensual lusts, property, fame, then you are always scared of or indebted to those who can give it to you and those who can take it from you. You will be extremely polite and humble yourself and humiliate yourself in front of people who have the power to make you rich, power to make you powerful. They have the power to make you famous. And you will be extremely scared of people who can impoverish you, who can defame you. So for a Stoic, it is important that that Stoic is free. And he can only be free because he does not want these things from other people. There is no problem with the Stoic working hard to be successful himself. As they say, standing on his own 2 feet, working his own sweat and blood to earn it. But if he is in gratitude of somebody, that other somebody has given him that wealth, or may take away that wealth, then he will not be free. For Stoic to have that moral conscience, to have that moral existence, and to have that soul, it is important for him to be free. The other aspect of justice that comes into Stoic's life is the concept of symmetry. What the Stoic does is that he looks at his own self and the other similar, symmetrical. Somebody breaks your valuable, you don't go and break that other person's valuable equally. You go there and bash that person's head. Somebody humiliates you apparently publicly, you go and kill that person, or injure that person, or injure or verbally injure that person's family. That is not symmetrical. Now, we know that Islam is totally symmetrical in this sense. It says an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a life for a life. So that is symmetry. If your car is smashed in an accident and it was somebody else's fault, you should not go and attack that person, because he has not attacked you deliberately and intentionally on your own person. What you need to do is to try to find a recompense in equitable terms. And that is where the world has gone mad, that somebody attacks somewhere, intentionally or unintentionally, and then the other side goes and kills 20,000 people. Somebody attacks, there's a fight between 2 people, and suddenly there's a massacre of a village. And that is where the Stoic will never get involved. Stoic will get involved in defending the innocent, defending his own family, defending home, defending country. But Stoic will not be asymmetrical in vengeance or in restitution. Stoic is also a person with humor. And once again, I mentioned that example that I've mentioned twice here, that somebody said Akmal is bad, and then Akmal says, well, he should have said more, he doesn't know all my faults. Now that is humor. That is something that the Stoic must do. I'm not saying that I'm a Stoic, I'm just trying to use it because my name, because I didn't want to use anybody else's name. Stoic will have that degree of humor for 2 reasons. One, that he will not let the other person get under his skin. And he will also disregard the importance of the other person's opinion, or the third person's opinion, or the second person's desire to humiliate the addressee. So that is also a practice in which humility and humor both merge. And in here, what the Stoic would do is to humble himself and use it with good humor. And these are extremely strong builders of that individuality that is self-responsible and self-reliant and inconsiderate of what other people say, because in that way other people cannot make or break you. And the other last thing that Enchiridion notes generally mean or suggest is morality. What is morality? Not telling lies is a moral action. Being just is a moral action. Being truthful is a highly moral action. Being considerate, equitable, symmetrical, humorous, collectively good are all moral actions. Now, if you are believing in that morality, you cannot be a Stoic if you do not practice those. So philosophy is life. And without philosophy of Stoicism being enacted every day, every moment, every thought, one cannot be a Stoic or a philosophical person. It is extremely important for the theory of Stoic philosophy to become part of daily living, because unless it is part of daily living, you cannot be that self-reliant, self-respecting, moral, responsible, a person who has the desire never to abrogate moral responsibility and become a Stoic. You cannot become one unless you practice it.